Salakaya Sakshurmilitan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Mahavaryaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvise Namaha. Reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Madhya-līlā, Chapter 12, The Cleansing of the Guṇḍicā Temple by Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Kavirāja Gosvāmī Maharaj, and translation and purports by Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swāmī Prabhupada. Ki Jai. Text 58. The prince, just entering upon his youth, was very beautiful. He was blackish in complexion and had large lotus eyes. The prince was dressed in yellow cloth, and there were jeweled ornaments decorating his body. Therefore anyone who saw him would remember Lord Krishna. Seeing the boy, Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu immediately remembered Krishna. Meeting the boy in ecstatic love, the Lord began to speak. Here is a great devotee, Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu said, upon seeing him. Everyone can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, son of Maharaj Nanda. Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu continued, I have become very much obliged just by seeing this boy. After seeing this, the Lord began embracing the prince. As soon as the prince was touched by Lord Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu, symptoms of ecstatic love immediately manifested themselves in his body. These symptoms included perspiration, trembling, tears, being stunned, and jubilation. The boy began to cry and dance, and he chanted Krishna, Krishna. Upon seeing his bodily symptoms and his chanting and dancing, all the devotees praised him for his great spiritual fortune. At that time, Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu calmed the youth and ordered him to come there daily to meet him. They then departed from Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu, and Ramananda Roy took the boy back to the king's palace. The king was very happy when he heard of his son's activities. Just by embracing his son, the king was filled with ecstatic love, just as if he had touched Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu directly. Since then, the fortunate prince was one of the most intimate devotees of the Lord. Thus Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu acts in the society of his pure devotees, performing his pastimes and spreading the Sankirtan movement. Some of the prominent devotees, like Advaita Acharya, used to invite Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu to take his meals at their homes. The Lord accepted such invitations, accompanied by his devotees. We remember also these pastimes of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj, that he would, when he was here in London, he would visit the houses of the devotees, also Saraswati, your house. Many times he came actually. And then the devotees accompanied him, and we had, nice gathering and prasadam. Mm-hmm. Yes, the pastimes of Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj were the same as actually what we read in Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Sri Caitanya-Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them to wash the temple known as Guṇḍicā. Purport. This Guṇḍicā temple is situated 2 miles northeast of the Jagannath temple. At the time of the Ratha Yatra festival, Lord Jagannath goes to the Guṇḍicā temple from his original temple and stays there for 1 week. After 1 week, he returns to his original temple. It is understood by hearsay that the wife of Indradyumna, the king, who established the Jagannath temple, was known as Guṇḍicā. There is also mention of the name of the Guṇḍicā temple in authoritative scripture. The area of the Guṇḍicā temple is estimated to be 288 cubits by 215 cubits. The main temple inside is about 36 cubits by 30 cubits, and the meeting hall is 32 cubits by 30 cubits. Upon hearing the Lord's request for them to wash the Guṇḍicā temple, the Padishah, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever your desire is, our duty to perform." The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore order me, I can immediately bring all these things to you. As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Guṇḍicā. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Guṇḍicā temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting places, simhasana, cleansed it, and again put it in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple's buildings, big and small, and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the meeting place. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna all the time. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing in the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, Bhoga Mandir, was cleansed, then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloth and threw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, "I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple simply by seeing all the straws and dust you have collected outside." Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord began allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept about, 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw them. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, Simhasan, and everything else within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When this water fell, it washed the walls and floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of the Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. The water that fell from the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own cloth, and he then polished the throne with them also. In this way all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the rooms had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were also clean as the rooms. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees brought water in the pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. So we stop here for today. Jai Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta Madhya-līlā, chapter 12, the cleansing of the Guṇḍicā temple ki jai. Śrīla Kṛṣṇadāsa Kavirāja Gosvāmī Maharaj ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Vedanta Swāmī Prabhupada ki jai. And we're reading from Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Volume 1, by Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Rakak Siddhadev Gosvāmī Maharaj ki jai. We're still in the chapter Faith in the Land of Sacrifice. That is chapter 9, and we continue on page 128. If one is not able or does not have the opportunity to execute the different forms of services to Krishna, if he has only Sharanagati, he will accomplish everything in the future. So what are the different forms of service to Krishna?
Shravanam,
Shravana,
Kirtan, Vishnu Smaram, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanvedam.
Very good. So here it says, even though you don't do that, but you have Sharanagati, you are surrendered, to the Lord, that will give you everything. Sharanagati is the most fundamental and basic substance in the devotional world. Yeah, that is like, then that is the beginning. So we have to do service, so then the other forms of services become apparent. The whole structure of the devotional world is based on Sharanagati. Without Sharanagati, there can be no real entrance into the domain of service. Sharanagati is the very life and essence of devotion, so it must be present in all forms of services. Without Sharanagati, service will be mere imitation, mere lifeless activity, and not devotional, and not devotion proper. So you can do all these devotional activities, what you were mentioning, it's 9. But if you're not thinking about for who you're gonna do it, or your mood of feeling very small and needing of grace of the Lord, then all these services is not devotion proper. Sharanagati is the first condition. Prahlad Maharaj has said, Manyetat etat akilam nikamasya satyam svamatparnam Śrīdhar paramasya pumsa. The whole gist of Vedic teachings is svatmarpanam, to give and fully dedicate oneself to the Lord. To give oneself is the substance of all devotional activity. This is also stated by Śrīdhar Swāmī in his commentary of the 9 basic devotional practices. If devotional hearing, chanting, etc. is already dedicated to Him, only then will it get recognition as devotion, Bhakti. Otherwise, everything is bogus. If I hear to fulfill my mundane purpose, then it is no longer Bhakti. If I perform kirtan or speak harikatha to make some money, then it will not be Bhakti. Whatever I shall do, it is for Him. That sort of bond must first be signed, and then whatever will be done on that basis will be recognized as Bhakti. This is the foundation of Bhakti. Without Sharanagati, all attempts will be exploitation, renunciation, meditation, karma, jnana, yoga, anything but Bhakti. The result must always go to my Lord. I am His slave, Nitya-das. I am wholly His servant, without any independence to keep my independent property. Whatever I shall acquire, or whatever I shall do, the owner is He. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nitya-das. Nitya-das means eternal servant, that is, slave. He has the right to make or mar, to do anything with me as he likes, according to his sweet will. So whenever we perform devotional hearing, chanting, remembering, with this feeling, that will be devotional activity. But if that is withdrawn, everything will go to hell. If the plank of the dancing stage is withdrawn, the whole show is gone. Therefore, with Sharanagati, self-dedication, devotion is possible. Only the activity of the man of dedicated self can be reckoned as Bhakti. He does everything on behalf of Krishna. He always takes Krishna's side, abandoning all separated interest for the fruit of his work. Consciousness of separate interest has made us separate from Krishna. The common interest is solely in him. Then only our service will be bhakti. Without that, everything is lost. Sharanagati must be present in order to have living devotion. Otherwise, hearing and chanting are all only forms, not life. Therefore, Sharanagati means exclusive connection and identification with the interest of Krishna. And Guru Maharaj also mentioned here, some life has to be in there. If we do the devotional activities, we have to see in ourselves how much life is there, how much really do we need Krishna in our life, how much really do we want to do this service the best, utmost as we can. So that is life, like make it dynamic. And Krishna is not directly seen by us, so we serve the Guru and the Vaishnava who are dear to him. According to the degree of our self-abnegation in self-surrender, we will be benefited, and the specific characteristics of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya or Madhura Rasa will develop, and there are also subdivisions within these rasas. In this way, the devotee will be properly located. But without Sharanagati, all the formal practices will lose their life and will become something other than bhakti, either in the plane of exploitation or the plane of renunciation. But the plane of dedication is the land of devotion. By his sweet will, sometimes the attention of the Lord is drawn towards the most needy, and sometimes a more qualified person may be ignored. We cannot interfere with his independence. Why have you shown mercy in this case and not in mine? We cannot take him on the law. That is not Sharanagati or surrender. When we put such a question to him, we deviate from the position of Sharanagati. We cannot expect to be enlisted even in the primary class. So what is the spirit of Sharanagati? If you come to consider my case, calculate my position, I have no hope. I'm such a mean fellow. If you come to calculate rights and wrong about me, I have no hope. So I have come to that school of yours where only mercy will be my hope. I want only your mercy. But if you come to examine me, I have no hope. This is the primary necessity in our Sharanagati, in our surrendering. Surrender means this. Surrender does not allow us to think, why have you shown grace to him and not to me? This is anti-surrendering temperament. No calculation. If you come to calculate, I have no hope. So if you can show me some grace, some causeless mercy, then I have that hope. I have come to this department of the Lord by surrendering. Anyone may have his voluntary mercy, but I may not. If I hesitate and think about justice, then I'm already cancelled from the list. My name will be struck from the register. This is one of the finest points in Sharanagati. What is surrender and what should be the quality of surrender? Marabi Rakabi, Yo Icha Tohara. According to your sweet will, you can make or mar me. With such understanding, we can go to surrender. Calculation is not allowed in that department of causeless mercy. Mercy may be extended to everyone except me, but I have nothing to complain about. What more can one give than this? This is the thunderbolt from the blue. To become Sharanagati, to surrender, means to leave all prospects, to be so emptied. I have no prospect, to be fully emptied, and then to surrender. There cannot be the least application in the petition. Surrender means a clean slate. Complete dependence upon him means he can make or mar. I must admit my master's right to make or mar. I am a slave. Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Kṛṣṇadāsa Nityadas. That is your constitutional position. Have you enough boldness to admit it? Can you admit that your master have full rights over you? Yes, my master have fullest rights over me. I'm ready to go to eternal hell to supply his slightest pleasure. Yes, are we ready for that?
Wow.
Yes.
Well, well, yes, we have to be, don't we? Yes.
Yeah, with full conviction.
With full conviction, yes. Yes. No doubts.
No doubt. And knowing that the Lord is all good, because what history do we have? We are so fallen. And in the most difficult times, He helped us through, right? Some mystical transformation happened to us. Otherwise, we would not be able to sit here still. And we know any time that can be gone. So, and we always will ask for that mercy to not to leave us, not to, that we have the strength to continue in all situations, all challenges, all trials and tribulations. But we know the Lord is all good. He has given us so much, lifetime after lifetime. And we cannot give the Lord a secondary position. He's always first. Always first, the Lord. Okay, we stop here. Any additions? Devananda Prabhu, Saraswati? How can we do it?
That's a very good chapter, isn't it? That's a very excellent chapter.
Madhusudana Maharaj always says, that what we have read was the greatest, was the best. It's always the best. All book is always the best, always the greatest chapter. But you wanted to say something.
No, I was just thinking that, you know, so much, you know, hits you in that chapter, you know, it's clear and simple. If you're not doing it in the spirit of surrender, it's not Krishna consciousness.
Doesn't count, yeah.
Not thinking of Krishna all the time.
Well, we see the garden is so nicely prepared.
Well,
No, we see all these beautiful spring flowers coming.
Well, yes, the daffodils are coming out now.
Daffodils.
Yeah.
Also, I saw the crocuses, like not so many. I see the hyacinths coming.
Yeah, but advice, nothing to do with me. It's just,
But also, I mean,
You're an instrument.
yeah, instrument, yeah.
always chanting.
Well, yeah, well, trying to, always thinking.
But even chanting, I mean, the holy name is so...
And even chanting, you have to do that in the spirit, of surrender as well.
Yeah, but the chanting is the greatest gift of the Lord to us, right? Mahaprabhu to us, greatest gift to the world, to the human beings. And the chanting is so powerful that even if we chant it without focus or even nama bhas, right? It gives just continuing, it clears without us knowing. Saraswati-san? Jai. Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion ki Jai. Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Śrīdhar Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai. Jai. Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai.